Hello, once again. This your Intake girl from the spirit world. Now, this particular Intake, we're going to talk about cavemen and cave dwellers. I've always been fascinated on, when they found different bones and different, evidence that these cavemen, lived and existed in the earth. And we're going to do some deep diving on actually the origins of cavemen and what it says in the Bible on what God created and how we have, different, things that we found, bones, fossils of these particular, creatures and species, actually demons that were, existed. And a lot of, philosophy from scientists like Darwin and, evolution, started to, be developed and created and theorized because of finding these particular things in the earth. And I'm gonna let you know what they really are, let you realize that God didn't create us to go ugh and oog and be primitive. God did not create a primitive species. So we're going to be coming from the beginning in the Bible, the book of Genesis, how God created man and woman, how he created them in us in our light, in his likeness. And God is not a caveman. He's not like, the commercials back in Geico. He's not primitive. He speaks, in English and other languages, holy godly languages. And of course, where these actually came from, the origins. So I'm coming from Genesis 1. And I'm going to start in verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, the image of God. We are made in God's image. After our likeness, we're made in God's likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping things that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them. I'm in verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. So last week I talked about merman. We supposed to have, dominion over them, not talk to them and want to be like them. Also, as you see from these set of scriptures, that we were created in his own image to replenish, to have dominion over the earth, not dominion in some caves. And that's it. Not wearing furry clothes and stuff like that, and that's it. And being primitive and instinctive, because they have tried to, think that we came from apes, and this is what we came from apes, and we came from an animal. It came from these particular hybrid demons in the earth, and we didn't come from any of that. So Adam and Eve were not cavemen and cave women. They were made in the likeness of God, and regardless of them sinning, of course, when Eve sinned, they just lost their access to God until Jesus fixed it. They're not going to lose access where they're going to work and regress back into primal, urges and age and just do things instinctively and speak and no ma'am. That came from a whole different way and a whole different method that God did not design mankind to operate in. So of course in the Garden of Eden, as you can see, they were communion with God. They walked around free without any clothing on. And of course, when they sinned and listened to the serpent, which was Satan, then the Lord, ousted them out. And now they had to work. They had to work for food, work and toil. And the woman had to have painful childbearing. But not once did it say, they had to put clothes on. But not once did they say, we gonna live in caves, and we gonna speak in hieroglyphics, and we gonna say ugh and ugh, and we gonna act all primitive and instinctive, and act like we don't have any sins, and act like we not in our right mind. God didn't create no cavemen. Now, where cavemen came from? I'm glad you asked that. Cave dwellers. Cavemen and cave dwellers came at the time where once Adam and Eve were kicked out, and of course before the flood, right before the flood. And of course, I'm going to read again. I'm going to read in this net. I'm still in Genesis. Genesis 6:1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took the wives of them which they chose. So, the demons that were already on the earth after they sinned, because they opened up the door to the demonic realm to have free course on the earth. And also, that's when the Satan come to and fro, seeking whom he may devour. So that opened up a whole portals for the enemy to have free course, wormholes in the earth. And so that's when they used to come in and, of course, mate with the, the women, and they developed the big, gigantic, titans and giants and Nephilims, and, of course, the Philistines were generational, descended from them. So, of course, you made all these giant beings and different hybrids, but then other things were starting to be developed as well. And of course, verse 3, and the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, but that he also flesh, that his days shall be 120 years. So they were doing all kind of hybrids. They were made with animals. That's why you saw monkeyish looking humans. They were made, with different spirits. They were made with different, entities. They were made all over, not just the ones that became, tall, gigantic Nephilims. They made it with other things. And of course, in verse 4, Genesis 6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children, then the same became mighty men, which were old men of renown. And verse 5, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination, everything they wanted to do. And there was actually a video I saw where they had so many different, you had demons, you had birdmen, demons, you had all kind of things, all kind of hybrids. And they still exist. They just retreated back into the spirit realm. They retreated back. But a lot of them that were humans, or the ones that were, connected with human beings, perished. But the spirit remained. Now, every imagination, thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Verse 6, and repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and grieved him in his heart. Verse 7, the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I created from the face of the earth. Once again, the face of the earth. Both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for he repented me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. It's when the Lord had to start all over. Now, cavemen came through this particular time. The wickedness of men. That's why you see what they did back in the day. They assumed that this is how we were at first. No. This was a, bastardization of how God created us to be and how us to operate. And even not cavemen, but if they kept on doing wicked stuff, kept on entertaining demons, mating with demons and beasts and stuff like this is when you start getting cavemen. That's when you start getting into deformity, because you start, forming into what you have connected or mated with or worship or idolized. So, cavemen, of course, were primitive. They were beastly. They were not exactly the image that God created us to be. But because it was perverted through sin and perverted through our disconnection with God at the time, because at the time Jesus hadn't came yet. He was on his way. So the covenant, the redeeming, plan for God, for mankind, so we don't end up in hell with Satan. But it was on the goings, but God had to start all over. He had to start all over with the flood. But before the flood, there was many species and many spirits that came. This is why it's important that we don't idolize and think it's cute that we had, and I saw a lot of movies about, cavemen and cave women and how they operated, because scientists went back and found these bones and studied them and said, this is how they live. This is how they dwell. They were very primitive. They lived on, teepees. They live in different regions. They did what they could to survive. They may not spoke much English or nothing at all. They would communicate through hieroglyphics or drawing. They would tell stories with their hands. It was really primitive. And the reason why, because of how they lived and dwelled. Cave dwellers is a type of spirit. 12 dwellers are a type of demons that rose from this time before the flood. And of course, even after the flood, there was remnants of him. So we have to remember the time frame. As soon as the flood was done, God washed all that stuff away. He washed all the cavemen, the spirits, the aquamens, all those, washed them all away to start all over. But those spirits retreated back to see if they can duplicate, these same type of spirits. And there's all different kind of spirits now. that they duplicate. The enemy is very strategic. Just like God created his image, he created things in his image or in the image of what God created. Well, his purpose, Satan's purpose, is to corrupt everything God made is good. He'll take an animal out and turn it into a spirit. He'll take something that God made good and corrupt it. And his purpose is what he made man good and corrupt him, mind, body, and soul, so he can be damned to hell and he can be, find his purpose in life, live the abundant life that Jesus came, and be what God really created him to be from the book of Genesis. So cavemen and cave women, that's not what God intended for us to be like. Those are hybrid spirits. And of course, when we, saw the missing link where it looked like, and Darwin, I remember studying this in school, where Darwin said we came from monkeys and then we came into, no, those were those spirits and demons, the monkey-ish looking demon. And then we made it with the monkey demons and the beasts and stuff. And this is where you get Bigfoot, Sasquatch. These are actual real demons. Trolls, abdominal, all kind of spirits came from them. All kind of demons came from them. So a lot of stuff came from us connecting ourselves naturally as well as spiritually to other spirits and other demons. And so that's when they assumed that we evolved. We evolved spiritually, but we don't evolve naturally from no monkey to no caveman, and now we just walking around in our right mind, speaking English or other languages and being, cognizant and our cognitive abilities and our, language and our, understanding is, all of a sudden advanced. God made us advanced from day one. Problem is we sinned, made a mistake, and had to work for stuff. But that does not mean that we retreated back into like animalistic, because cavemen are animal spirits, animalistic. They're animalistic, they're primitive, and no, yes, we had to wear clothes, but we didn't live in caves. And this is a little tidbit about caves. Caves can be also portals. This is where you saw a lot of things that, different cultures and different, civilizations used to, tell stories, on the caves, because that's sometimes where they will meet these demons, meet these idols, meet these, entities that would meet them in these cave and dark places. That's why you be careful, all these cave dwellers and folks that want to adventure in caves, whether water or, actual natural caves. These are also can be portals for enemy, the spirits to be in there, spirits to take you, spirits to talk to, all of that. So cave dwellers, are not of God. That's not what God intended. He made us in his image, not the image of what they say, you get a club and hit the girl because you want to make with her. That's not how God created us to be. So we have to remember all the stuff that we, all this stuff we have to unravel, some of the errors. Because I used to see, movies about them, and I used to wonder about, I don't think we came from monkeys. I don't think we came from gorillas. I don't think, no, we didn't, no, ma'am. This is something that happened and got perverted and distorted because of sins of man and our intertwining and entertaining and actually, having connections with demonic spirits and beings. So, this is my intel on cavemen and cave women. That's not a God. Know where we came from. And in the book of Genesis, God made us in his image, which was wonderful, good, and beautiful. In our right mind, and can speak and be knowledgeable and cognitive, and our learning, skills are advanced. So keep liking and subscribe to this channel. I got more intel to come. More intel from your spirit girl about some other spirits. So talk to you later. Bye-bye.